Hello, everyone. I hope your Thursday is going great. I'm so excited to have you here. So welcome to Marketing Matters, a forum where we seek to elevate marketing and fresh produce. The truth is, marketing really does need to matter more if we're going to drive demand, sell more fresh produce, and ultimately contribute to the health of our society. Hello, I'm Danelle Macchialmi, President and CEO of DMA Solutions. Thank you to our repeat guests and certainly to our first-time attendees. We're so happy you're here. We've been doing these Marketing Matter webinars since May, and we have the whole collection on our website easily for you to reference our past sessions, and that's in our free resources section. So check them out. A couple of housekeeping tips before we get started today with our last webinar of the year. We will be sharing this deck, so if you're taking notes, keep that in mind. Also, we love questions and comments. So what I'm going to do is walk us through this presentation, and then we open it up for questions, comments, or anything that you have to add. You can certainly do that through the chat or the Q&A. You can also let our team know if you'd like to come forward and have a discussion with us after the presentation. So excited to dive into this meaty topic today. We also have a couple of poll questions throughout the presentation. So we'd love for you to give us feedback on those poll questions to help enrich our content. If you're just now joining us, like I said, we are excited about the year that we just wrapped and starting this new endeavor for DMA Solutions. We have our topics for Q1 queued up for the new year, and we are going to be tackling topics around food trends. We are going to also have a session in early February about Viva Fresh and Southern Exposure. Our two shows of the year. It's been a while since we've been face to face, and we're going to have some guests from each of those associations join us and talk about how their shows are going to be different in our new reality here. And then we'll be looking at shopper behaviors. There's just incredible research that's out there about how our behaviors as consumers have changed because of all of the events of 2020. And we'll talk a lot about that today, but there's just some great insights we'd love to share with you that we're collecting. So excited about our lineup for January and February. Those links to register for those webinars will be available soon. So we'll be sure and send that out to you when those are available. We also will be sending out a survey to everyone. We've had over 150 different companies attend our webinars this year, and we'll be sending out a survey just to ask you a few questions to help us shape content, time of the week that's best for you for these sessions, and just some things to really help us make our 2021 season even better than this one. So appreciate your feedback on that survey when it comes your way. Also wanted to invite any new attendees who are not subscribed to our blog, The Core. We've been publishing for over 10 years. We publish 3 times a week, some very helpful content, anything and everything relative to marketing and certainly happenings in the industry. We just launched this week our social media calendar. We've been creating these calendars for our fellow marketers and industry colleagues for over 6 years. And we have a social media calendar that's extremely helpful for creating content. And then a produce marketers calendar that lists events and other milestones throughout the calendar year to help you with your planning for 2021. And with that, I'll turn off my video and walk us through the deck, and looking forward to a healthy discussion on the other side. Thank you so much. So let's start off with a little bit of a humorous take on certainly, we love this cartoon because it just couldn't be more accurate. And while we can't say for certain what to expect from this new year, we do know that the marketing landscape has forever changed, and we need to be ready for what's next by evaluating what worked in 2020 and what we need to be doing in 2021 to connect with our audiences. The pandemic has challenged fresh produce industry to rethink where and how we are going to engage with trade and consumer audiences. I mean, think about it. Between trade shows moving to virtual format, consumers spending more time cooking at home, which we know has negatively impacted the restaurant industry, at the same time, boosted retail. And then there's work remote and increased online shopping purchases and more. The coronavirus has forced us as marketers to reevaluate our future marketing efforts. This presentation is meant to both encourage and inspire you to expand the way you think about marketing in the new year. And before moving on to our next slide, we do have a poll question, if we could tee that up. So, which of the following areas of marketing do you find the most difficult to navigate currently? And I would like for you to answer that with 2020 in your purview. So, what's the most challenging at this time? Obviously, there's many more aspects of marketing here, but we were honing in on some of the topics that we're going to cover today. All right, got a even spread here. We seem to have some challenges with public relations, influencer partnerships, social media, all that. None of this is a surprise to us, but I am happy to see that email marketing is less on the agenda there, because I think that, or on the challenges there, because it is such an influential part. All of these are critical in our abilities to move forward in this new environment. And while they've been important, there never has been a time where they've been more important. So this is good context. Appreciate you sharing that with us. So change isn't coming, according to Forbes. It's here. COVID has brought it back at brought it at breakneck speed, and marketers are feeling it. When we leave our houses in the near future, consumerism won't look the same. And this quote directly correlates to the realities that retailers and even food service operators are feeling right now in light of this pandemic. The truth is, consumerism has already changed, and it's going to shift even more as the vaccine enters the marketplace, and hopefully immune bodies get back to work, back to making money and spending on things like groceries and eating at restaurants again. In other words, why has marketing forever changed? It's because we have. People and or consumers are changed, and so have our buying behaviors. From both the trade and consumer perspective, we have shared time and time again this year, whether it's through this webinar or on our blog, that our online marketing efforts matter more now than ever. And we will continue to see this trend as we move into 2021. So let's talk a little bit more about what 2020 has taught us. Adaptability and flexibility. This is certainly something that 2020 has demanded of us as marketers. If you look at the visuals on the first slide, we see that in this, or in the first picture, we see the first picture, a group of farmers with masks on. This is part of our Hands Behind the Harvest social campaign that we've been working on for a client this year. You can see from this visual that we work to adapt the social strategy here to be transparent about safety measures and heroize the essential farmers. The second example is a coupon we offered this year to build goodwill for the most loyal customers of this brand. And the moral of the story, as we all know, is that adaptability and flexibility are both key. So looking ahead, we do anticipate a bit more of the same in terms of being adaptable and flexible with our marketing planning and execution. Later in the presentation, we'll talk about planning for 2021. But if I'm giving you any advice at this moment that I believe will help your business prepare to be more flexible from a marketing perspective, is for you to communicate and elevate these truths that we're going to cover today to your leaders, and confirm that you will understand that this will be the case in the new year, and that you will be at the forefront of leading this for your business. And what we mean by that is, what we've seen happen is that marketing has been in the driver's seat for communications for many of the companies that we work with. And in many ways, it's been some of the first times where the marketers in the companies that we work with have been relied upon to make sure that the company's messages to all their audiences, whether it's internal audiences, buying audiences, and or the consumer, marketing has been the team and the group to help guide that as we've had to navigate communicating in often uncertain times. So again, remaining adaptable and flexible will be key in the new year. And certainly 2020 has helped us understand that more than ever. Also, 2020 has helped us understand that remaining open, authentic, and inclusive is paramount. According to a recent study, 90% of consumers report that a brand's authenticity impacts whether or not they'll support it. Moments of crisis aren't a time to sugarcoat things. Your audience can tell if you're not being authentic about difficulties of the current situation and will be less engaged as a result. They can smell fake when they see one. Bandwagon marketing has been a lesson learned in 2020, and we should be mindful of this in 2021. Being authentic about things that your company is passionate about or does support is a way to stay authentic. Brands needing to practice brands needing to practice inclusivity in 2021 is a foregone conclusion at this point. Before you begin planning content for the next year, analyze the audiences that you're marketing to, people in your social communities, people who are buying your products, and adapt your marketing accordingly to make sure you attract them to come back to your communities and attract, obviously, and at the same time attract new audiences. The images on the slide here show you what pre-2020 photography might have looked like versus post-2020 photography. So now is the perfect time to audit these assets and prepare for the new year. So again, open, authentic, and inclusive is signals and certainly lessons that 2020 has taught us. Another big lesson is that brands that will win and have won in this past year have been both helpful and relevant. And again, we know this to be true that helpful content always wins. And from our own experience, by April 2020, we knew we knew that we were facing a long and winding road relative to content. And at the same time, we continued to see growth in consumer engagement. This carried on through the summer and has been the case this fall. And with the holiday season here, we expect better numbers than perhaps ever before. Would we have been successful if we just gone dark and halted our communication efforts with consumer or moved on as business with you as usual with our audiences? I mean, I think you know the answer to that. So being relevant and helpful in 2021 and beyond is absolutely an essential frame of mind and marketing approach that we should embrace. The things that we know to be true as motives for providing helpful content in 2021 are these three things. Money is on the minds of Americans. And so while unemployment rates have improved and people are still in flux with jobs as we weave in and out of elevated COVID numbers and lower capacity rates for businesses, people are looking for affordable, simple, and comforting foods that taste good and are easy to make and not going to break the bank. The second thing, kids will be going back to school. Again, with fluctuations in COVID cases in various parts of the US, some people are sending their children back to school, meaning we may be facing a new season of back to school at any time in the first half of the year. And I do believe it's going to be a mixture. We think, and we can already see that happening. So keeping that in mind. And the third reality that will be resonating with buying audiences is that people are more concerned with immunity more than ever. And they're seeking easy and affordable solutions for taking more nutritional foods that help elevate their immune systems through cold, flu, and COVID season. Again, a silver lining in all of this circumstance that we've been living through is that people are paying attention more to their health, and that plays extremely well for fresh produce. So lastly, what has 2020 demanded of us? And this is something that I think we've known to be true, but communicate, communicate, and communicate. And if the band Journey doesn't want us to stop believing, DMA certainly doesn't want you to stop communicating. We saw this firsthand throughout 2020, and the brands that continued communicating with audiences, both internally and externally, earned more trust and loyalty. We do recommend that you get started on a communications plan for 2021 that sets the course for your various types of marketing through the first 6 months at least. If you're in need of ideas to plug in that plan that the consumer will find relevant, we just launched 2 calendars that I mentioned earlier. Both are now available for free on our website. And these calendars are created to help you plan communications in a relevant and timely way. And everything from your website to social media and email marketing can truly be impacted by using these tools. That's why we created them. So, what are the opportunities ahead for 2021? We know that the consumer behaviors have forever been changed. And while tools may remain the same, the tools that we've been using, the rules and our approach as marketers, especially of fresh food, must evolve. We have to rethink and lean into a new reality, unlike that ostrich earlier. We really do need to think and be able to think beyond what has worked for us in the past, because I can guarantee you that the landscape has changed and we must think differently. And that's not only in a marketing, from a marketing standpoint, but certainly a sales standpoint. And if you want to take a look at one of our previous webinars on the roles of sales and marketing in fresh produce, we had a great dialogue about how these roles have changed. So be sure and check out that recording if you missed it. But it is touching many aspects of our business. But one area that we know for sure is from a marketing perspective. So we've chosen these key disciplines to highlight today as we look forward: consumer marketing, public relations, social media, and influencer marketing. However, we do want to point out that none of these disciplines should operate in a silo. Instead, we see them working together to result in a dynamic, well-rounded marketing strategy. Also worth pointing out that there are many other aspects of marketing we have to consider, but these are the areas we believe offer the most opportunity for fresh produce brands in 2021. So let's dive in. And please remember, you can always ask questions using the chat feature below, and certainly put comments out there for discussion as we wrap up these last few slides. So, consumer marketing opportunities in 2021. We certainly know that 2020 was a learning and an adapting year for our industry in so many ways. And here are 4 of the key marketing opportunities that should be carried over into our 2020 planning initiatives. Understanding path to purchase. To understand, we have to ask, how do our marketing efforts make an impact on purchase intent and brand loyalty? Are our efforts actually driving consumers to seek out and purchase our products? Now is the time to dive into data. From shopper promotions, email marketing, downloadable content, social media promotions, coupon programs, product locators, and more. 2021 is the year to show the impact that our marketing efforts have on driving shoppers to retail customers. Diving into this will not only prove the value of your efforts, but it serves as an important asset in retailer meetings and shows them why marketing can serve and why your brand can serve as a valued partner in ways your competition can't or may not understand. Again, understanding path to purchase is a true competitive advantage. The demand for convenience. Help shoppers find your products. We have to ask, do shoppers know where they can buy our products? Working exclusively in the fresh produce industry, we're no strangers to the complications of asking this question. With the rise in popularity of e-commerce, particularly during the pandemic, more and more fresh food companies are seeking avenues to sell directly to shoppers. Whether it's through your own e-commerce platform or through third-party services like GoBelly, Instacart, or Amazon Fresh. This has been a hot topic of conversation, including during many sessions at Fresh Summit. So we know that brands are struggling to understand how they can overcome the perishable challenges to offer this e-commerce opportunity to consumers. And we understand jumping right into e-commerce may not be for everybody, but we will be exploring this topic a lot in 2021, because I think that there are ways and viable ways to make it work. We just have to explore it based on your products and where your product is available. Also, another key point, a key opportunity for us is to clean up our content and stay relevant. As we mentioned earlier, 2020 showed us the value in doing so. So do we still have images, for example, of large group gatherings? And does the blog copy still talk about serving large groups of house guests for the holidays, for instance? It's time to clean up and clean out irrelevant content and make sure your messaging and visuals align with consumers' needs today. This may mean we need to plan for photo shoots in 2021 to capture lifestyle photography that might include smaller groups, distancing, or mask wearing to stay relevant with your audiences. We should also keep the lens of the pandemic and diversity in mind as we create recipes and shareable content for audiences to engage with. And the fourth key opportunity is to invest in strategic email marketing. 2020 has shown us the power of email marketing from both the B2B and B2C perspective. Whether it's connecting with trade about safety protocols, farm updates, or virtual events, it's been an important and powerful tool of engagement and communication when face-to-face time has diminished. From a consumer perspective, and we'll see on the next slide just a few of the many stats that prove the value of email marketing. So if you're not effectively using email marketing for trade and consumer audiences, we recommend that you make that a priority this year. Please reach out to us if you need some support and direction here. We're happy to help. So again, to further take a closer look at email marketing from the previous slide, we see from these stats that it's critical more now than ever that we start making our email strategy a priority. You can see these stats alone give us plenty of proof in that reasoning. And certainly if you go back to some of our previous webinars, we've shown you real time or actual examples from the industry about the rise in email open rates during this last year. So with that, let's tee up our second poll question. So of these four opportunities, which one is a top priority for your marketing team in 2021? Understanding path to purchase, the demand for convenience, so basically helping shoppers find your products, cleaning up and cleaning out your content to stay relevant, or strategic email marketing, or perhaps many of us are in the same boat of all of these are a priority moving forward. All right, just a few more seconds to answer. All right, share the results with you here. So to no surprise, there's all of us are 37% of us at least are challenged by them all, which is not a surprising topic. And so these other answers certainly give us guidance on things that we can be covering in our content as we share with you in the new year through the Marketing Matter webinars and certainly through our core blog content. So I do believe while these are the greatest opportunities for us, they do open up new avenues for many of us as we continue our journey of becoming more present with consumers as fresh produce brands. So thank you for sharing that input and answers. All right, now let's talk public relations. It's true, fresh produce is having its moment. And we've seen this to be true in many areas and consumer media, certainly in particular. Even in the midst of the pandemic, our PR team was able to find success with national consumer media. In April alone, one of our brands we work with garnered 4 product requests from national editors, and as a result, landed placements in major publications like Women's Health, Food Network, Eating Well, and Men's Health. We were able to pivot our pitch angles to accompany the ever-changing news cycle and speak to what editors were looking for to share with their readers, ultimately showcasing how our clients' products meet those needs. We didn't know how national media was going to respond in the midst of the pandemic, no different than we knew what it was, how consumers were going to respond to brands on email marketing or social media. But we were so we were so encouraged to know that, this is for 1 month, this is quite an impressive a look of request and placements on behalf of one of the brands that we work for. And what we saw early on, as we've shared with you a number of times, is that the media was looking for even more information, and they too saw what we were seeing on our side, is that consumers wanted to have more dialogue and learn more about products that they were cooking with maybe for the first time, or products that could help with their health or build their immunity. So, and in that way, our PR efforts continued to rise, and we were able to see success on behalf of the brands that we work with, just as we were in other areas. Another opportunity for 2021 is that PR that is backed by advertising is more effective. And as we prepare for a year that is certainly going to continue to be uncertain in many ways, we know one thing for sure is the need for advertising to support certainly our trade efforts, but definitely consumer as well. And a sure way to have your brand in front of buyers is through advertising. And we recommend that you be as strategic as possible with your trade advertising. For instance, focusing more spend during a product launch, product refreshes, and website launches. With advertising also comes the opportunity for editorial coverage. So be sure to reach out to your advertising representative to ensure you're receiving the maximum amount of exposure with your ad spend. Because what we're seeing as active advertisers, and as active with as brands that are active with sharing news through press releases, it's also important that there's a lot of editorial opportunities out there. And as you foster relationships with the trade media partners through advertising in some ways, and I know those are two separate areas most often, and with our media partners, but it's important for you to be seen as a thought leader and to be sharing information and ideas that can help get editorial coverage as you're continuing to elevate your news stories beyond just what you have to share that is new about your organization. There's a lot of knowledge that you possess relative to your products or seasons, or how the weather is impacting your crops. And it's important that you're utilizing both of these efforts together to elevate those stories and the information that you would like shared. So moving on to social media, the key for social media is to be focused on being relevant. And even in tumultuous times, social media continues to be the place where our audiences are searching for inspiration. This means that in 2021, it's especially important for brands to focus on providing value to their audiences by sharing content, as we've said, that is helpful, relevant, and aligned with current trends. And like we mentioned earlier, helpful content always wins. For one of our clients, we saw a 128% more engagement on relative COVID-related farm updates compared to their typical weekly post. We strongly recommend that you and encourage you all to look for opportunities to connect with your audience in impactful and relevant ways. And again, not to avoid being relevant and not to avoid being in the moment. I mean, we're living in this reality together, and as brands and companies, we need to show up that we too are in this with our audiences. So in this moment together. And if you're needing support here, please reach out to us. We'd love to work with you to brainstorm ways to elevate your social media in 2021 and to help you drive real social media results. No doubt about it, video is king. Going beyond helpful and relevant content, 2020 has shown us the true value of video. And we do want to be clear here that while long form video is still valuable, it's still important in telling your stories. It's short form, a minute or less, that has become the star in 2020. With so many new video functionalities added to social media platforms in the past few years, like TikTok, IGTV, IG Stories, IG Live, Reels, and even more, it is clear that this will continue to be a trend in 2021. In fact, it's estimated that somewhere between 80 and 86% of the internet consumption is going to be video by the end of next year. I mean, that is an awakening for all of us who are sitting here with a lot of content that is needing to be transformed into video. The great news is for many of you, you have the stories in place and you have many assets that can be transitioned into a short video format. And so one of the brands, just for example, one of the brands that we work with, we saw great results on IGTV videos with branded cooking demonstration featuring their chef partner. This is just a great way to connect with new audiences in particular and to continue to drive interest in your products in a very visual and impactful way. So if you're not leveraging video on social media now, we hope you can make this a priority in 2021. Moving on to influencers, the reality is the landscape is shifting and micro influencers offer an excellent opportunity for fresh produce. For reference, micro influencers are influencers with less than 10,000 followers, for instance, on Instagram. So while their reach is not quite as large, their engagement is typically higher. Why is that? They're the most authentic influencer group with extremely loyal followers. From our experience, they are more eager to work with growing brands and are more often the most cost-effective partner option. Their authenticity translates to being the most trustworthy of all influencer groups. As a result, 82% of consumers rely and trust influencer recommendation to influence their purchasing decisions. But that isn't the only influencer trend we've seen this year. Another trend we're seeing is the shift toward long-term influencer partners. In the past, brands leveraged influencers for one-off or one-post projects. However, in 2020, we saw brands shift to build longer-term relationships instead, and we believe this will only continue to become more frequent in 2021. Long-term partnerships establish brand credibility, and the consumer and their audiences often assume if an influencer they know and trust is willing to align with you and your brand, there will likely be something they will enjoy too, because it's smaller, more intimate audiences that are garnering this trust and loyalty. And when you take that reality one step further, recipe creation with influencers are also a great way to highlight the versatility of your products and drive interest. Establishing these long-term partnerships will also lead to additional perks with these partners, such as additional mentions and coverage beyond and above the terms of your agreement. And we're seeing this time and time again with the long-term partner relationships that we're working with on behalf of our brand partners, is that you engage with a partnership, and because it is truly that the influencer in the moment when they have maybe not a scheduled post with you, but they feel inspired by your product, or maybe they bring your product in on another particular post or partnership that they're working on. They want the relationship and your brand to receive attention and awareness beyond what they're contracted to do. That's what we're seeing. That's why we're seeing so much value with the micro influencer. And again, if you have questions in these particular areas, please reach out to us. So bringing these three key areas together, again, wanted to highlight the opportunities that we've seen here. Today, we've discussed these four areas, and knowing that the new year is full of a lot of unknowns. And the point that we made earlier, we really want to make sure that we drive home, is that all of these disciplines must work together to form a whole strategic marketing plan, meaning that all of our marketing efforts should work together and piggyback off of each other to help reach our goals in 2021. A great example of this is sharing your short video content created for social in an email or a virtual event to consumers and trade audiences. So we want 2021 to be the year that fresh produce marketing is elevated more than any other, and taking our work to a whole new level, as we have the tools and the resources here at our fingertips. And we know that the marketing landscape may never be the same again. In some ways it might, but in most ways it will not. But this gives us a huge opportunity to adapt and to show up for the audiences that are looking for us to solve many of their solutions and to inspire them in these new realities. So again, we believe that 2021 has teed us up for great success as marketers in fresh produce, and certainly as brands looking to increase demand of the products that we grow, ship, and sell. So now I'd love to open the floor for questions and comments. So I will turn my video back on and invite a discussion. Any of the DMA team would like to join me, and I'm excited to hear if any questions have been posed or any comments. Hi, Mackenzie.
Hi. All right. So don't be shy about asking questions. It doesn't look like we have a whole lot of questions yet,
Okay.
but I do want to share an observation I made based on the poll questions that I saw come in and the responses there. I found it really interesting that email marketing wasn't considered a challenge and also wasn't listed as a priority for most people on that second poll question. And what I would encourage all of you who are listening to this to consider is, perhaps it's not seen as a challenge because not enough of you are doing it. So I think it's a really important thing to reconsider some of those priorities, to think about email marketing, especially for reaching trade audiences in 2021, because the clients that we're working with that have invested in expanding their email marketing and have invested in using it more and more to reach their retail customers have seen some pretty incredible results this year, especially with the diminished face-to-face contact. We've seen some things come through and have people that are really, really happy with the way that retailers are engaging with them through their email platforms.
Yeah.
So I would certainly encourage everyone that's on this call to think about that. If it's not something that you prioritize, if it's not something that you do at all, perhaps it's something that you should look into and do some more research on, or get a little bit more curious about, or talk to us about it, because it's something that I think is going to be vital to success in 2021, especially as these virtual events continue, which they probably will, at least in the first half of the year. We're going to need email marketing to help us be successful.
I agree. And my hope was, when I saw those results that you pointed out, was that we have our arms around that. But we see a lot of examples out there of whether it's people on our blog, we just see a lot of examples of people struggling with email marketing. And, it does pose a challenge for a lot of brands out there. And I think we have been somewhat misled to think that social was going to replace email, no different than we were somewhat misled that print was going to go away with digital advertising. I mean, I think we've learned the contrary. And I will say, and I think we've said this a number of times this year, we were shocked to see the numbers spike. We see regularly healthy email open rates, whether it's consumer or trade, with the work that we do on a regular basis. But when we saw the spikes, not only spike in April and May with email marketing after COVID hit and set in, it hasn't gone back down. And I mean, we're still reporting and seeing high open rates. So I do agree with you, Mackenzie. It's an area that we cannot overlook, but it can be daunting because it's another layer of content development. It usually requires some version of marketing technology, but we do have some not quick, but we have some ways to get started. We have some starter ideas if you're starting from scratch. So please reach out to us and let's hop on the phone, and maybe we can talk you through some strategies to get you started. And if you've tried it and not been successful, and you're doing it and you're not seeing the numbers that you would like, let us get in there and do some diagnostics for you and see if we can't help you in 2021. We'd love to. I'm seeing some chats here.
Yeah, struck a chord with email. I like what the point that Lori made. Thank you for making this point about email marketing being critical, because it's not subject to the algorithm changes that like social media is subject to, or even Google. So that's really a really great point as to why investing in email marketing is something to consider. You don't have to worry about that piece that's, quite frankly, really stressful to deal with as a marketer as things change constantly. So thanks, Lori.
You don't have to worry with algorithms, but I'm sorry, Megan, go ahead.
Oh, no, we were probably going to say the same thing. You do have to worry about how to get the contacts into your database and to email the right ones at the right time.
Correct.
That's really the key. And I know we've gone through that. If anybody's interested more in email marketing, we have done a Marketing Matters webinar on email marketing. So that's available to you on our free resources page. But yes, it's still a hot topic going into 2021. I mean, people are still consuming content at a higher rate than they were a year ago. So just keeping that in mind for your plans going into 2021.
Yeah. On that note, someone asked, how are we to secure opt-in permission from the trade? They love the idea, agree on the value, but how do we do that part? And I think that's a really valid question. I think that it's not easy. It becomes certainly more complicated if you're trying to reach an international buying audience there. That's adds a very another layer of complication to things. But as of right now, at least in the United States, we have less to worry about with those types of laws forcing us to have explicit consent and opt-ins. Now, it's probably going to go that direction at some point, so we all need to be thinking about that. But as of right now, we're using things like the lists you receive from trade show registration lists. We're able to secure those lists and use those to help us reach out and send people an email inviting them to come visit our page at a virtual trade show. And then from there, if people open and engage with the email, we keep them in the system and remarket to them, email them later. If someone marks the email as spam or opts out from that initial send, then we know we need to go ahead and take them out of the database. They're not someone who wants to hear from us in that way and haven't continued to opt in with us from there.
I mean,
those are good points.
Sorry, Danelle. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add to that. I think we're delayed a little bit, so I can't see it when you're speaking. But what I would say too is everything that Mackenzie said is correct. But I also think that the safest place to start is with the emails that you already have. It's working with your sales team to say, who are we emailing on a regular basis? And then putting together some content or an email campaign to those folks. But you've got to have some reason for them to want to opt in. So whether it's a newsletter or a crop update or a reason for them to give you what I would consider a next level of permission, because I think permissions something we should always be in search of, because what we don't want to do is tarnish our name and our brand by bugging people with information that they don't want. And so how do we do that? We position ourselves as providing helpful information to them, not just constantly selling them something. So something that will help them be more educated, more informed, in a way that's easier for them to digest, potentially beyond the sales the interaction they're having with your sales teams. So again, that's a practice that we've believed strongly for over 10 years, when email marketing really kind of settled in. Is I think that staying helpful and staying on the side of looking for ways for people to opt in. Now that's just on the trade side, and I'm sure Marcy could give 50 other examples of the ways that we go about doing that. But we really, if you can keep those things in guiding your decisions, I think you'll stay safe relative to garnering true opt-in and people who want to be engaged with your information. And so Megan, I don't know if you're going to add to that.
Yep, I will. In fact, this kind of segues into what Kim Flores has asked, which is any tips or insights for marketing in the struggling food service sector, which to parlay off of what Danelle was just talking about, it's empathy. Really, it's understanding that things aren't awesome right now. And, even resharing information that other people are publishing about what consumers actually are buying or eating or choosing to purchase when they go to food service establishments. What are the statistics on that? Sharing information that may not solve their problem immediately, but just keeping you in front of them, in front of their eyes, and being a resource for them, quite frankly, as they're navigating through this tough time. You'll potentially set yourself up to be the resource for them when they actually need more product, when people get back to going out to eat more often. So.
And Kim, that could be in the form of a one pager that you develop where you collect buying behaviors. You know, that's one of the topics we're going to cover in February. We're doing an extensive deep dive, and we've paid for some research that we're going to elevate and share with you. But taking that information, that type of information, United has a lot of information, PMA has been sharing information, taking it and then making it applicable to your products potentially, so that, to Megan's point, when things do come back to whatever the normal is going to be. I don't believe in that we're going to go backwards. You're there and being helpful to them. So it could be a simple one pager that you put together and put a form in front of it. And then your buyers are opting into that information, or you don't even have to gate the content. But if you see a buyer open the email and click through, that's an indication that that person wants to engage with your information. And as a marketing team, we know we're doing the right thing and we're not being off-putting to our audience. We're being helpful, in other words. So that's how I would take that information. And I don't think we're doing that quite enough. I mean, do our buyers really have the time to go seek all of the information out there about how consumers are changed in this new world order? No, they don't. And that's up to us to educate. And quite frankly, that's not something that we should all be doing it, and finding ways to educate our buying audiences, both at food service and retail, to behavioral changes. And I believe that they'll continue to shift as things start to come out of the drastic version of this pandemic that we're in and start to, change, hopefully, in 2021. So, Marcy, I don't know if you have anything to add on to that.
No, good. I think that was thorough.
Okay.
We do have a couple of questions beyond email marketing. Well, actually, one of them is connected to email. It's, what do we consider a healthy open rate? And the person that asked the question said, they hear a lot of different things. So how do we measure success from an email marketing perspective?
Do y'all want to take that, or me dive in and then you come back and correct me?
Well, what I can say is that based on averages that you can look up, I mean, every year several entities will report on email averages, average open rate, average click rate by industry. One thing that we found is that the average email open and click rates that we're seeing for our clients are typically much higher than what is reported for other industries. So that's really exciting to see for fresh food and fresh produce in particular. And I think it can be all over the place. It depends on your audience. So it gets different when you slice it by, are you talking about B2B or B2C open rates? But I will say is that on average, I think a really healthy email open rate to be excited about for either audience is around 20 to 25%.
Right. Which if you Google email open rates and you're just looking at different industries, you're looking at especially CPG, you're not going to see anywhere near that. I mean, it's going to be below 5. Y'all know that if you follow us at all, you know that we're big believers in HubSpot marketing technology. And I mean, I think they celebrate a 3% open rate. Is that correct? They
do 3 to 5%. And truly how we view it is, be okay with 15% open rate, be okay with 5% click rate, but strive for better than that. I mean, work harder, right? Like, what's wrong? There's something wrong if your emails aren't performing at that level. There's a content disconnect. There's a subject heading disconnect. You're not potentially reaching the right audiences with the right content, going into segmentation. So thinking about that a little bit deeper to answer that question 9 different ways to the person that asked that question, that's really it. It all depends, but don't settle. That's the number one thing, is don't settle for standards. Settle for what you are able to maintain and then strive for better.
And we saw email open rates and have continuously seen them above 30%. Is that correct? In the last 9 months.
Some really exciting metrics on that. And not to say that we've seen that across the board for everyone, but we've seen instances of it, especially around trade emails that we've been supporting around virtual shows. We've seen really, really great success there.
Yep.
Promotion, consumer emails that's promotional content can get up that high as well.
Mhm.
So there's just so many different types of email content, nutrition content, farming content, meal inspiration, promotion content. They all sort of live in their own world of, for each brand, each of those categories of content are going to start yielding a different average email open rate and click rate. And you just have to manage that independent of one another.
Yeah, I think that's critical, is set benchmarks for the type of emails that you're sending. And what she's saying is be cautious to compare just in general all the types of emails that you're sending and expecting the same results. I mean, we even see that with DMA. So a core email is going to perform different than when we announce we have our new calendars available. So we can't compare those two. Now we can look at when we launched the emails for the calendars last year, and we can use that as a benchmark, looking at both open and click-throughs. But to compare that to our weekly email that we send out for our blog, we're not getting an accurate comparison there. So those are other ways to think about that. But again, we publish frequently the email open rates that we're seeing. So you can go back and look at some of our webinars and our blog posts and look for some references there. And if you would like something specific, shoot us a note and we can see if we can help you out.
We have another pretty big question. Like, this is a doozy, but it's fun. I mean, I think
Well, then I'm gonna take a drink of water if it's a doozy.
Let's get real. Let's get real. Should we be considering content development for post-pandemic at this point? Post-pandemic. So, I mean,
I think this is going to be an opinion question, because I think we're as marketers, we're still living so much and getting the content transitioned to be relative to today. I mean, obviously, even though this was March and April, we started thinking about holiday content immediately, because when we saw that this wasn't going to go away, so this summer. And so I think there's going to be, in my opinion, and I'd love to hear the rest of the DMA's team's opinion, but in my opinion, I think we're going to need a mixture of both for the foreseeable future, because I don't think that there's going to be a magic wand, and I'm not trying to be in any way political here, but I think while we're going to have better treatments and a new reality as vaccines come onto the market, I still think we're going to have to be nimble and flexible. That's why we put that out there in this presentation. I think we're going to need a mixture of both. I think the one thing that we've really got to focus on is how our products can keep us healthy and certainly build up our immunities. We've known that. And I think, tried to share that in different ways, but I think we have an audience that's listening. So I think, to me, if you're vacillating on how far out do I go for 2021 with mask related content, I don't know, but I think you need a mixture of it, because I don't think masks are going to go away anytime soon. So I think that remaining relevant to the time that we're in now is probably smart, at least well into back to school next year is my opinion. But I think really leaning into the immune piece of it and the health benefits and how our products can prevent illness and keep us healthy, I think that's the most important aspect of really advancing your content. So that's my opinion. I'd love to hear what everybody else has to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it depends on so many things, and that the person who asked the question, that it's all dependent on so many variables. But just again, all politics aside, the news is stating, right, like, we get the vaccine soon. Let's just go there. Best case, people who aren't frontline workers or people who aren't, absolutely necessary, then we're looking at that, like me. I'm looking at maybe a June shot, like being able to get the shot best case in June. So knowing that the first 6 months of the year is probably going to look a lot the same. I don't know that I would go beyond that. I would try to plan for what you do know, and I would try to just be flexible with being, to Danelle's point, being available to be flexible and nimble with when you find out something has changed. Mm-hmm. So I would be careful in planning out too far, quite frankly, in 2021. But to Danelle's point, are any of us going to go back and sit in a restaurant full of people at 100% without a mask on? I don't know. I don't know. Or a bar. That's probably or country music place or a karaoke lounge. I don't know.
Well,
We'll
that
see.
needs to get back stat. This is ridiculous. We've
But
got to
you
get back.
do know what you do know is people have to eat 3 times a day. You do know people are still potentially nervous about going to the grocery store. You know people are still wearing masks. You know. So plan on what you do know and be flexible about the things you don't.
Mhm. Good question.
Really good question. And I think that's it. If anybody else has a question, if you would just pop it into that chat bar real quick, we can address it. Or if there's anybody we missed.
And if anybody's teeing something up, I do want to take this opportunity to really thank everyone who's attended these webinars for us. I mean, we dove into this unknown frontier out of a deep desire to just want to be helpful and to create a forum to where we can be an additional resource to you. You know, we take great pride in being a resource to all marketers in this industry, whether we work together or not. We all work alongside each other, and I think we're trying. We want the same outcome. So we just appreciate the grace that you've given us as we work through technology and learning Zoom and me fumbling over words and all of the things that we've tackled in this in this Marketing Matters, getting this off the ground. We're excited about a lot of the things that we've learned. And I really just want to take the opportunity to thank the DMA team, because you dove into something and shown what marketing is really about. Sometimes we have to move forward with imperfection and things that aren't completely polished and absolutely in a perfect state to be helpful. And this has been a great example of us doing just that. So I'm very proud of us practicing what we preach, but with each and every time working to strive to be better. So I'd like to thank the DMA team for all that we've put into this, and in front of your peers out there as well. So if there aren't any questions, I wish you all a very happy holiday. If you celebrate Hanukkah, I hope your Hanukkah is going very well, and Merry Christmas to those of you out there. And just thank you for being a wonderful part of the work that we get to do. So I wish you all a healthy holiday. That's for sure, indeed. So from everyone at DMA, we wish you the best, and we look forward to connecting in 2021. Thank you.